Hello, I'm Rupert, and today I'm going to talk about multi-factor authentication, also known as MFA or 2FA, and explain a little bit more about what it is and why you should consider using it. So the term multi-factor authentication is used to describe the additional layers of information on top of your normal username and password that are required when logging into a device or service. Examples of this extra information are things like PIN codes, memorable words, hardware tokens or apps, software or PIN code generators that you may have used. I'm just going to run through the evolution of authentication over the years. If you've been around long enough, you may remember computers that just turned on automatically and presented at the desktop, or maybe you just had to click your name on the logon screen. Ultimately, that wasn't a good idea, and passwords for logging in became apparent and the norm. I think most people accept that these days. The banks were probably one of the first industries to start adding additional memorable information to that. Can you type in letters 2, 3 and 4 from your from a memorable word that you were asked when you created the account? Added a little bit of information to the and a little bit of security to the login process. Didn't take too much extra time. The challenge with those is they're both knowledge-based. Ultimately, if I could intercept what you were typing into your keyboard, I have a good chance of being able to work out what they are. And there's a strong chance as well with these knowledge-based items that you've written them down. Hopefully not on a post-it note on your desk, or a little black book in your top right-hand desk drawer called passwords. But that's the challenge with knowledge-based information. The first forms of two-factor authentication we saw really were kind of hardware tokens, devices that either generated a code like the one on the right there, or a hardware token that you physically insert into a device when you're logging into it. They add a lot of benefit because of the physical nature of them. It means that they're very hard to manipulate from a remote hacking point of view, but at the same time they are not personalized. They're not actually asking for anything, and therefore if I left my hardware token or code generator in my laptop bag that I then left on the train, I haven't actually added a tremendous amount to the security of the systems that I'm logging into. The finance industry again typically lead with PIN-based code generators, so these are a little bit more advanced than the previous hardware code generator, in so much as when I turn them on, they won't just give me a code. I actually need to enter some information, normally in a PIN code that's tied to the device, before it will actually let me generate the codes that I then use to log in. These are great. The finance industry seems to have standardized on them for the time being. There is a cost to them. They obviously the banks pay for them. We're all paying for them from an account charges point of view, and they take a few days to turn up in the post. They run on batteries and all that sort of thing. So they add a lot of security, but they're not necessarily the most convenient from a user experience point of view. These days, most of us aren't far away from our mobile phones most of the time, and that's where the prevalence of Authenticator Apps has grown so much. So an Authenticator app is a piece of software that you download to your phone. They do exist for computers, but typically we see them far more on mobile devices. And they then generate a code, random code that changes every 30 seconds typically, and you just type that code in as an extra form of authentication when you are logging into a service. The quick screenshot there is taken from the Zero accounting website, where they explain the process. Typically, Authenticator apps are very, very quick to set up. It only takes genuinely 2 minutes when you are signing up an account, creating an account, to use the camera in your phone to scan the QR code, and that basically ties it up. And then next time you don't need to go through that process. You just open the Authenticator app and you'll be presented with the code immediately. So it adds one extra layer of information that needs to be typed in, but is the best form of protection currently available. Typically, most phones, certainly Androids or iPhones, will not be open. So if I left it on the train, you would need me to log in with a PIN code, or more likely these days a fingerprint recognition or even facial unlocking. So an element of biometrics to actually get in, not only to the phone, but most authenticator apps you can then lock the individual items as well, so they're not displayed. So there's a good level of security there that's very accessible and most importantly very convenient and user-friendly from a user experience point of view. And the current generation of both Authenticator apps and PIN-based code generators are what I'd refer to as true multi-factor solutions. So the ingredients that I've just covered very quickly, there's a device, a possession, something I have. It's either a PIN code generator or an app on my mobile phone, something I know I still need my username and my password to get into the system in the first place. And something that you are. So the biometrics in the case of the Authenticator app on a phone, or a device that, or the PIN code that I need to know to be able to log into the code generator from the banks. So where can I actually use multi-factor authentication? Well, I'd suggest any system or service that holds confidential information should support MFA. And on the screen now there's a few logos from companies that you'll certainly have dealt with many, or if not all of, over the years, all of whom have invested time and money into enabling MFA on your accounts to protect the confidential information that they hold on behalf, but also ultimately to protect their own businesses. They don't want the data breaches either, and the more they can do to help you secure your accounts with them, the better. None of them charge for multi-factor authentication. In fact, I'm not actually aware of any services that do charge for adding multi-factor authentication as an extra layer of security on your accounts. So I'd strongly recommend that anybody consider them. As a company, Net Primates also enable MFA on all of our line of business applications, the technical tool set that we use day to day. We can also use MFA when logging into to computers, to routers, to firewalls, to VPN accounts in some instances as well. So strongly recommend that you think not about it doesn't matter what the badge is, the question is what type of data is that system holding, and that's where you should consider whether or not you protect a service with MFA. So this isn't a how-to guide, but if you're keen at the moment, I'm keen to capitalise on that. What I'd love you to do, if you've never used MFA before, is I'd recommend you download the free Microsoft Authenticator app, which is available from the App Store or Google Play Store. Log into any of the companies I've mentioned above and follow their individual guides about how to enable MFA on your account. It is different from site to site. Ultimately, once you've done 10, you're probably fairly capable of doing it on your own moving forwards. But certainly check out the guides that each of the providers I mentioned will have done. Even if you only protect your Facebook account or your email account, then that's really good. If you are a company owner, director, or in the finance department, I'd urge you to protect your mailboxes and your account software would be my number one priorities for those. There is a little warning up there. Before you get started, do make sure that you know your password and have got recovery phone numbers and email addresses configured before you get started with MFA, because I would hate for you to be locked out of your account. If your IT provider hasn't been talking to you about MFA already, please do reach out to them for advice and support. Certainly moving forwards, this is something, it's the best that the industry can currently do from a user experience and security point of view. It's painless, it's cheap, but it adds an awful lot of value against the and protection ultimately against the people that are trying to get into your resources. I really hope you've enjoyed the video today. If you found it useful, please do share it with anyone else you think may benefit, and you're welcome to look at the link below to check out any other videos that we've recorded. Look forward to seeing you again soon.